When I was a small child, someone took me. Because of that, my birth parents adopted a girl, Chloe, from a children's home. Years later, I found my birth parents again. Soon after, their adopted daughter, Chloe, took sleeping pills and ended her life. She left behind many photo albums that showed her life since she was young. When my birth parents looked through them, they started crying uncontrollably. At her funeral service, they wept loudly and blamed me. They shouted, "If you hadn't returned, Chloe would still be with us." They said they wished I had died instead of her. Fulfilling their wish, my biological brother Ben hit me with his car. When I next opened my eyes, I found myself back on the day I first met my birth family again. I had fallen asleep on a public bus. My adoptive mother, Maria, gently touched my arm. "Sarah, this is our stop. Time to wake up," she whispered. I opened my eyes and the familiar surroundings felt strange for a moment. I realized I'd just had a vivid dream. In that dream, my brother Ben drove his car into me, throwing me several feet and breaking my arm. Ben had gotten out of his car, watching coldly as I lay bleeding. His eyes were full of rage. "Sarah, you should have died. Why did you come back? Give Chloe back to me." The angry words of my birth parents echoed in my head. If you hadn't returned, Chloe wouldn't have died. They hated me deeply, even though they were the ones who had wanted me to come back. Chloe was the daughter they had adopted. After I was kidnapped as a child, my parents were overcome with grief. My brother Ben suggested, "Mom, Dad, since you can't find my sister, maybe adopt a girl from the orphanage?" Taking his advice, they adopted a girl close to my age and named her Chloe, hoping she would bring joy to their lives. Chloe was treated like royalty in David and Emily's home. Meanwhile, I was passed between child traffickers and forced to beg on the streets. I ended up in a tiny town close to starving under a bridge. That's where Maria found me and gave me a home. Her husband had passed away in a work accident years before. She had a son who was 3 years younger than me. After taking me in, she worked incredibly hard, juggling 3 jobs in town to support her son and me. Even though we were poor, I felt safe and loved. Eventually, my biological parents, David and Emily, located me and arranged for us to meet. I had essentially been reborn on my journey to that meeting ceremony. Remembering the terrible way I died in my past life sent shivers down my spine. The bus arrived at the stop, and Maria and I stepped off. In front of us stood a large, impressive building. It was the headquarters of Stellar Corp, where the reunion event was scheduled. David had invited numerous reporters to cover the event, aiming to improve the family's public image. "Sarah, is that the place? It's enormous," Maria commented, her eyes moist with tears. "You've been through so much hardship. You won't have such a difficult life once you go back with them." She attempted to smile, but it seemed forced and sad. I knew she didn't truly want me to leave. In my previous life, she had cried the entire journey home after I left with David and Emily. "Mom," I asked, "did you bring my photo album? Could you give it to me?" "Yes, I have it right here," Maria replied, pulling an old album from her bag. I accepted the album and began flipping through its pages. It was filled with pictures of me growing up. Chloe also had an album, one that chronicled her life from a little princess to a sophisticated young woman. In my past life, on the day I reconnected with my biological parents, we all shed tears together. Chloe quietly slipped away, went home early, and locked herself in her room. She swallowed an entire bottle of sleeping pills. When my parents and I returned to their mansion later, feeling happy, the housekeeper, Helen, ran towards us in distress, saying, "Something terrible has happened. Miss Chloe took pills in her room." The joyful atmosphere vanished instantly. David rushed Chloe to the hospital. My parents waited anxiously outside the emergency room. When the doctor emerged, he shook his head gravely. "I'm sorry, we did everything possible. You should prepare for the worst." Emily nearly collapsed, and David had to support her. Chloe's last words were tucked into her photo album. "Mom, Dad, brother, thank you for showing me endless love. Now, I return it all to Sarah. Goodbye. If there's another life, I wish to be your biological daughter." As my parents leafed through Chloe's album, tears streamed down their faces. She had been their precious child. They wondered what could have possibly made her silently end her life. Ben rushed back from overseas. That night, he sat in Chloe's room until morning, consumed by guilt. "Chloe, I arrived too late. I failed to protect you. Why didn't you wait for me? If you wanted to die, I would join you, but first, the person responsible for your death must pay. My parents and brother held me responsible for Chloe's death. They believed I was the reason she died. They regretted ever finding me. At Chloe's funeral, they cursed me, told me to leave their family, and never show my face again. After the service, as I walked aimlessly down the street, Ben deliberately drove his sports car into me. Bringing my thoughts back to the present, I held Maria's hand tightly as we walked towards the Stellar Court building. The media was already assembled, anticipating my arrival. My parents waited anxiously for me to appear. Ben was still abroad. As Maria and I reached the entrance, company employees parted to let us through. Reporters crowded around us. David and Emily approached, their eyes filled with tears. Emily stretched out her arms. "Sarah, we've finally found you, my dear." Unlike the past life, there were no tears or embraces from my side. I deliberately stepped away from her. They looked surprised. David attempted to ease the tension. "Sarah, you've endured so much over the years. Come home with your parents, and we promise to make it up to you, doubly so." In the crowd, I noticed Chloe, dressed in expensive designer clothes, looking at me with contempt. I turned my gaze away and cleared my throat before addressing my biological parents. "I came to this meeting today to inform you that I will not be returning to your family." Then, I took Maria's hand and declared, "My adoptive mother raised me through great hardship, and I intend to repay her by staying with her." David and Emily's expressions shifted. They clearly hadn't expected this response. David argued, "Sarah, don't be unreasonable. Your adoptive mother did a great service raising you, and we will compensate her with $1 million. The company employees began whispering amongst themselves. Does she even realize the value of Stellar Corp? Returning with the chairman means limitless wealth. Only a fool would refuse. Her adoptive mother looks like someone from the countryside. She probably couldn't earn the cost of one of Emily's handbags in her entire life." A reporter chimed in. "Sarah, your parents are among the wealthiest people in this region. They've prepared a luxury car and a house for you as compensation. Don't be foolish." I calmly replied, "I am an adult and have the right to choose my path in life. I choose to live with my adoptive mother." I handed the photo album to Emily, saying, "You missed my growing up years. This album will show you how I lived. Consider it a gift from me. Goodbye." With that, I held Maria's hand, pushed through the onlookers, and walked out of the Stellar Corp building. Behind me, I heard Chloe's mocking voice sneer. Who is she trying to fool? Deep down, she desperately wants to come back. Playing hard to get is so repulsive. Emily frowned. "Chloe, do not speak about Sarah that way. It is our family that has wronged her all these years." David dismissed the reporters and employees. He walked over to Chloe and gave her a stern look. "Chloe, mind your manners in public. Have you ever seen a true heiress speak like that?" Chloe pouted. "Understood, Dad and Mom." She then changed her tone, suggesting tentatively, "Since she doesn't want to return, perhaps we should just accept it. Isn't the bond formed through raising someone stronger than the bond of birth?" In her heart, her adoptive mother is her real mother. Just like me. Even if my biological parents appeared, you two would always be my only parents. Emily's heart ached, her voice tinged with sadness. "It's not the same. We cherished you from the moment we met you. But Sarah's adoptive mother is very poor. Sarah likely endured many hardships with her." She opened the photo album. The first picture showed me at age 5, dressed in old clothes, helping my adoptive mom harvest corn. David's eyes also fell on the photo, and both felt a stinging sensation in their noses. This image brought back the memory of when I was abducted. When I was born, my parents were just starting their business, and life wasn't particularly affluent. One weekend when I was 3, they took me and my brother Ben to the amusement park. Ben wanted to ride the Ferris wheel, but I was too young. Mom was supposed to wait with me, but Ben insisted vehemently, "I want both Mom and Dad to ride with me. Daddy on my left, Mommy on my right." They initially refused, explaining I was too little and needed supervision. However, they gave in to Ben's tantrum. They left me at a small shop near the Ferris wheel, instructing me not to wander off and promising to return quickly. The shop was busy, and the clerk was overwhelmed, unable to keep an eye on me. Ben laughed with delight on the Ferris wheel. Dad sat to his left, Mom to his right. All three watched helplessly as a stranger led me away, disappearing into the crowd. They were frantic but powerless. By the time their ride ended, I was gone. Mom and Dad continued flipping through the album, tears escaping their eyes. It documented my childhood spent in poverty, reminding them that Chloe, too, had been a dirt-streaked orphan. After adopting Chloe, they lavished her with everything, attempting to compensate for my absence through her. They spoiled her, nurturing an arrogant and entitled personality. Each photograph seemed to highlight the stark contrast between my life and Chloe's. I should have been the one treasured, yet I battled for survival amidst hardship. Chloe pouted, realizing the album would only evoke sympathy for me, placing her at a disadvantage. She snatched the album, closing it shut. Why look at her photos? She rejected you. Aren't you just upsetting yourselves? I'll burn it for you. Wait! Emily grabbed Chloe's arm, trying to reclaim the album. Chloe, give it back. Chloe resisted. Mom, why are you doing this to yourself? I'll burn it. It's for your own good. I don't want you and Dad to be upset. Emily struggled to retrieve the album, but lost her balance and fell, looking quite vulnerable. David helped Emily up, his anger evident. He slapped Chloe soundly across the face, thundering, "Enough!" Chloe cradled her cheek, tears brimming in her eyes. Dad, weren't you always the one who spoiled me the most? David's face hardened. Chloe, can't you be reasonable for once? Your mom and I have enough on our minds, and you're only causing more trouble. Me? Not sensible? Chloe laughed bitterly through her tears, saying defiantly, Fine, it's my fault. Maybe I don't belong here anymore. Wiping her tears, she turned to leave, tossing back, All right, I won't disturb you anymore. I'm going. Emily watched Chloe depart, filled with guilt. David, wasn't that slap too severe? We've never laid a hand on her before. She's our little princess. What if she can't handle this? David looked at his hand and sighed. I was quite angry earlier, and I did strike too hard. He paused, then added, Why don't you call our son and ask him to cheer Chloe up? Okay, I'll call Ben right now, Emily replied, taking out her phone. Just a few days after my adoptive mom, Maria, and I returned home, David and Emily arrived bearing numerous gifts for me. I had worked several part-time jobs during college and managed to save some money. Last year, I had renovated our house in the countryside. Things were better now, but to David and Emily, our life probably still seemed difficult. Maria invited them to sit down. They tried to reconnect with me, asking about my current situation. After graduating from college, I began working as a technician at a biotechnology company, which aligned with my field of study. David became animated. Sarah, our family business is in skincare and cosmetics. Your expertise is precisely what Stellar Corp needs. Why don't you come work for us? I remained silent, so David added, We'll offer you triple your current salary. Emily attempted an emotional appeal. Sarah, the market is very competitive these days, and we're facing some challenges with product development. Could you come back and lend us your help? I stood up, signaling the end of the visit. I'll consider it. If there's nothing else, you can head back now. Before departing, David and Emily looked at me hopefully. Sarah, please call us once you've made your decision. We truly hope to reunite as a family. I replied calmly, It appears your adopted daughter, Chloe, isn't particularly enthusiastic about my return. Working for the company is one thing, but moving in with you? That's not going to happen. David assured me, Don't worry, we will speak with Chloe. She won't cause you any problems. Emily added, You are our daughter. She does not get to dictate terms. I will call you once I decide, I said, waving as they drove away. My adoptive mom reassured me that she would support whatever choice I made. I spent about 2 weeks contemplating the offer. During that period, David and Emily called a few times to check in. I learned that Ben had returned from his trip abroad. Apparently, after Chloe was slapped, she went out clubbing and got extremely drunk. Ben had carried her home immediately upon his arrival. She cried on his shoulder all night, which deeply affected him. The following day, once she had sobered up, Ben took her on an extravagant shopping trip, spending hundreds of thousands just to lift her spirits. She had even asked Ben, "If Sarah genuinely returns to Stellar Corp and bullies me, will you stand by my side or hers?" Ben reportedly patted her head affectionately. "Silly girl, of course I'll take your side. We grew up together. She cannot replace you." This response pleased Chloe immensely, and she held onto Ben's arm, saying, "You're the best brother ever." Ben does have a girlfriend, Olivia, who is still overseas and comes from a wealthy family. Ultimately, I informed David and Emily via phone that I would accept the job at their company. At the reunion ceremony, I had stated I wouldn't return, but that was merely a tactic. Naturally, I intended to go back. How else could I enact my revenge? The image of Ben hitting me with his car remained vivid in my mind. My past tragedies were all linked to him, and I had no intention of letting him escape consequences. The following day, David and Emily came to collect me. As I didn't wish to move back into their home, they arranged an apartment for me near the company headquarters. I began my role in the technical department, starting from a basic position. That weekend, they invited me to dinner at their mansion. The housekeeper prepared an exquisite meal. Ben and Chloe were also present. It marked our first family dinner together. Ben remained distant, as did Chloe. Neither of them welcomed my return. When I was kidnapped as a child, my parents had blamed him, arguing that if he hadn't insisted they both ride the Ferris wheel, I wouldn't have been taken. He had faced considerable punishment over the years due to that incident, fostering resentment towards me. In his eyes, Chloe was an angel. Whenever he was scolded, she would console him with candy, whispering, "Don't be sad, big brother. You still have me." Chloe represented his sole comfort, while I was perceived as the source of his suffering. During dinner, David sensed the strained atmosphere and asked casually, "Sarah, you still don't have a boyfriend, do you? Would you like us to introduce you to someone?" Before I could decline, Emily interjected, "I believe the second son of the Miller family, Tom, would be a suitable match. We are contemplating a marriage alliance with them." Before she could elaborate, Chloe interrupted, "Mom, didn't you advise me to get acquainted with Tom? Are you and Dad planning to offer Sarah the opportunity with the Miller family instead?" Emily managed a strained smile. "Yesterday, during tea with Mrs. Miller, she mentioned that Tom isn't particularly interested. A marriage might not materialize, so I thought Sarah could perhaps give it a try." Chloe was displeased and retorted, "Mrs. Miller isn't reliable. Tom and I get along very well. He even invited me to a concert." David attempted to mediate. "All right then, you continue getting to know Tom." Chloe regained her composure, stating confidently, "Don't worry, Mom and Dad. I will ensure the Miller family's son becomes interested in me." Ben placed his chopsticks down, his expression growing even colder. He stood up and announced, "I'm finished eating. I'm going back to my room." Chloe quickly finished her meal and said, "Mom, Dad, I think Ben might not be feeling well. I'll go check on him." After dinner, Emily gave me a tour of the villa and offered me a room should I ever decide to move back in. The mansion was vast, and exploring it would take considerable time. I suggested she rest while I continued looking around on my own. As I ascended to the second floor, I overheard a conversation emanating from one of the rooms between Ben and Chloe. "Chloe, Tom is known for being a player," Ben stated. "He doesn't deserve you. I won't permit you to marry him." Chloe responded, "Brother, I have to get married eventually, right? You have a girlfriend too. I don't particularly like her, but you haven't broken up with her." Ben paused before replying, "She's pregnant. I can't end things with her right now." "Chloe, you don't need to get married. I can provide for you indefinitely." "Pregnant? Wow, brother, impressive," Chloe remarked with a slight smile, though her tone was sharp. "It seems I should spend some time with Tom Miller. Perhaps we'll develop feelings for each other over time." "You wouldn't dare." "Oh, but I would." Following that day, I immersed myself in my work. Chloe also worked at the company, serving as a quality control manager. Our roles required interaction, and she frequently attempted to undermine my efforts, but I successfully countered her schemes. I discovered that the Stellar Corp and Miller families shared a complex history. The Miller family initially served as suppliers for Stellar Corp when the business first launched. They had even invested in Stellar Corp during difficult periods to provide support. However, as Stellar Corp's business flourished, they removed the Millers from the board of directors and switched suppliers, effectively burning that bridge. Recently, Stellar Corp encountered a business downturn while the Miller family patented a novel technology, attracting various brand partners seeking collaboration. Stellar Corp sought to regain favor with the Miller family, conceiving the idea of a family alliance through marriage. This strategy seemed perplexing. Would the Miller family genuinely consider collaborating with Stellar Corp again? Either they possessed remarkable forgiveness, prioritizing profit over past grievances, or they harbored ulterior motives. One weekend evening, Chloe posted on social media, enjoying a concert with someone I like. The accompanying photos featured a singer's performance and an image of intertwined fingers. It appeared she had attended the concert with Tom. The following morning, I encountered Chloe in the elevator. She casually flipped her hair back, revealing a distinct mark on her neck, and glanced at me defiantly, stating, "Tom Miller is mine. Don't even consider pursuing the marriage opportunity." It seemed she had not only attended the concert with Tom, but had also spent the night with him. I replied calmly, "Congratulations in advance, future Mrs. Miller." She taunted, "Don't feign generosity. You're likely consumed with jealousy already, aren't you? You're back at the company, but don't imagine you can overshadow me in our parents' and brothers' estimation. An ugly duckling remains an ugly duckling. Cease dreaming of transforming into a swan." Chloe wore a long white dress that day, complemented by diamond earrings that lent her an air of sophisticated elegance. I was attired in a sharp, crisp black business suit. I observed our reflections in the elevator mirror, one black, one white. I didn't perceive myself as inferior to her in any way. As the elevator reached the ground floor and the doors slid open, Tom entered, dressed in a tailored black suit. Our department had invited the Miller Group's second son to discuss a new product development initiative. He had brought the latest raw materials to explain their properties for potential collaboration. Tom stepped into the elevator, and his gaze immediately fixed upon me. Chloe, feeling jealous, tugged at his hand. "Tom, let's have lunch together." "We're at work. Maintain professionalism," Tom replied, subtly avoiding Chloe's touch, his tone somewhat cool. "We'll see." Chloe looked visibly annoyed. She could observe Tom frequently glancing at me in the elevator mirror. I greeted him politely. "Good morning, Mr. Miller." Tom extended his hand. "Hi, I know your name is Sarah." Witnessing our handshake instantly infuriated Chloe. She had just labeled me an ugly duckling, yet now she was the one being disregarded. She assumed I intended to take Tom from her. She was mistaken. My sole focus was on work. Tom was merely a supplier I would engage with professionally. After the morning meeting concluded, I proceeded to a nearby mall restaurant for lunch, only to encounter Tom there. He gestured towards the vacant seat beside me and inquired, "Sarah, would you mind if I joined you?" The restaurant was bustling during the lunch hour, and a quick scan revealed no other empty tables. Considering our ongoing professional relationship, I nodded. "Sure." Tom sat next to me and began ordering from the menu. When our food arrived, he removed his black suit jacket, revealing a white shirt underneath. Midway through our meal, Chloe appeared, incandescent with rage and seemingly unconcerned about the surrounding diners. "Sarah, have some self-respect, will you? Can't wait to snatch my man?" Tom frowned. "Chloe, don't create a scene. We are simply sharing a table." "Ha!" Chloe chuckled coldly. "Sharing a table today? Sharing a bed tomorrow?" I responded icily. "Chloe, perhaps you should verify your facts before speaking." "I'll put you in your place so you understand who Tom's actual girlfriend is," Chloe declared, picking up her cup of tea and aiming it towards my face. Naturally, I wasn't going to tolerate that passively. I swiftly shifted to the side, dodging the tea. Meanwhile, Tom reached out instinctively to shield me, resulting in Chloe spilling the entire cup over Tom's arm. His white shirt was instantly stained with tea. Tom's expression darkened considerably, and he stated firmly, "Chloe, do not refer to yourself as my girlfriend. We are merely friends, nothing more." Chloe retorted sharply, "Friends who have slept together?" "This is absurd," Tom muttered, rising to attend to the tea stains on his shirt in the restroom. Some tea had also splashed onto my clothing. I stood up, brushed the droplets off my suit, picked up my cup of coffee, and deliberately poured its contents over Chloe's pristine white dress. Chloe, I will not tolerate your behavior. Do not mess with me again. I delivered those words curtly, proceeded to the counter to settle my bill, and then exited the restaurant. Chloe remained behind, looking utterly foolish and grinding her teeth in fury. That evening, long after everyone else in my department had departed, I was still working overtime. Chloe entered my office, accompanied by Ben. She complained tearfully to him, "Bro, Sarah poured hot coffee all over me during lunch, completely ruining my custom-made white dress. She's simply getting out of hand." Ben approached me, his expression fierce. "Sarah apologized to Chloe." I frowned. "She threw tea at me first. She is the one who should apologize. You were flirting with her boyfriend. She was justified in teaching you a lesson. But retaliating with coffee, that was unacceptable," Ben ordered coldly. "Apologize, and do not compel me to ask a third time." "Even if you ask 100 times, I will not apologize," I retorted, picking up my phone and sending a voice message to David. "Dad, please come to my office." Witnessing this, Ben snatched my phone and tossed it into the nearby trash can. He sneered. "I just saw Dad leave the company premises. Do you believe you can use him against me?" "Not a chance." I maintained my composure. I stated I am not apologizing. "What actions do you intend to take? Resort to bullying?" Ben glanced towards Chloe. "Chloe, go prepare a cup of hot coffee. Inflict upon her what she inflicted upon you. Your brother has your back." "Thanks, bro," Chloe replied as she turned towards the break room to make coffee. Ben settled into my office chair, observing me with cold contempt. "You should never have returned. You are nothing but trouble." I shot back. "It was your negligence that led to my abduction by traffickers. Do you feel no shred of guilt?" "Guilt? Why should I feel guilty? Mom and Dad have berated me for this incident for years," he seethed. "I wished you had perished out there and never resurfaced. It's a shame your luck was too favorable." His hatred intensified with each word. Whenever I encountered children begging on the streets, missing limbs, I hoped one of them was you. I trembled with fury. "Ben, you are disgusting." Ben snorted dismissively. "You chose to return, so don't blame me for showing no mercy. I will demonstrate what genuine hell entails." I observed his demonic expression, slowly regaining internal composure. I whispered silently to myself, "Ben, I have already experienced hell. This time you can have a taste." While we were conversing, Chloe prepared the coffee and approached, ready to douse me with it. Just at that moment, David's angry voice resonated from the hallway outside. "Stop!" Startled, Chloe spilled the coffee and dropped the cup. The steaming liquid scalded her, causing her to stumble and fall. Her hand landed directly on sharp fragments of the broken cup, slicing it open. Ben rushed to assist her, only to be forcefully pulled back by David. "You ungrateful son! Is this how you treat your own sister?" David reprimanded sharply, delivering a hard slap across Ben's face that made him stagger backward and inadvertently step on Chloe's injured hand. They ended up in a tangled heap on the floor, utterly humiliated. Blood dripped from Chloe's hand, and she winced in pain. Ben helped Chloe to her feet, his face contorted with fury. "Dad, why strike me without ascertaining the facts? We merely came to invite Sarah to dinner." "What a fabrication!" I interjected. I pointed towards my phone lying in the trash can and asked, "Does inviting me to dinner involve breaking my phone? Does it entail preparing hot coffee with the intention of throwing it on me?" I retrieved my spare phone from my pocket and presented David with the recording I had captured. "Dad, listen to what Ben uttered earlier." Ben's face turned deathly pale. "You recorded it?" I smirked. It was typical of Chloe to react impulsively. Holding back her anger all afternoon had been surprising. I had suspected she would enlist Ben's help to confront me, so I deliberately worked late, anticipating their arrival. The moment they entered, I had initiated the recording. David listened intently to Ben's arrogant and hateful words. His anger mounted with each passing sentence, and by the conclusion, he was visibly trembling. Who could harbor such malice as to say, "I've seen kids missing limbs begging on the streets. I hoped one was you"? David finished listening and pointed accusingly at Ben. I have raised a son who despises his own sister to this degree? I cannot tolerate such a vile child in my family. He returned my phone, then promptly called the company's chief financial officer and issued an order. Freeze all of Ben's financial accounts immediately. Dad! Ben attempted to plead. David cut him off curtly. No discussion. When you finally recognize your mistakes and offer a sincere apology to Sarah, I will reconsider lifting the freeze. Ben shot me an icy glare that sent a chill down my spine. I vividly recalled the incident from my past life when he had deliberately struck me with his car. I was certain he was capable of anything when enraged. However, having already faced death once, I was no longer afraid. This time, I resolved to neutralize him before he could harm me again. With Ben's accounts frozen, he remained subdued for a period. Chloe preoccupied herself with pursuing Tom. I dedicated myself to my work, frequently staying late. If I was being compensated triple the standard rate, I would exert triple the effort. David and Emily discussed granting me 10% of the company's shares as restitution for the years of suffering I had endured. I took the time to meticulously review the company's financial statements. Stellar Corp's revenue appeared substantial, but they hadn't achieved profitability in 3 years. They were merely managing to stay afloat. If this trend persisted, it wouldn't be long before the entire enterprise collapsed. Owning shares under such circumstances would be futile. I proposed, if you genuinely wish to compensate me, then convert the proposed shares into cash. After some deliberation, David and Emily consented to my suggestion. They liquidated 10% of the company's shares and transferred the cash equivalent to my account. Instantly, I became considerably wealthy. One evening, I worked overtime until 11 p.m. As I was preparing to leave, the elevator unexpectedly stopped on the 6th floor. The 6th floor housed David's office. He was getting older and couldn't manage such late hours. Even when working overtime, he rarely stayed past 8 p.m. by now. It was already 11 p.m. So, logically, his office should have been vacant. Intrigued, I pressed the button for the 6th floor. The door to David's office was slightly ajar, and the lights were illuminated. I quietly approached, just about to push the door open. Suddenly, the lights extinguished, and someone pulled the door open from within. Chloe saw me and appeared startled, quickly hiding the document she was holding behind her back. I inquired, "You don't typically work this late. What are you doing in Dad's office at this hour?" She swiftly regained her composure. "Dad requested I retrieve a document. Is there an issue? It's exceptionally late. Dad should be asleep by now, shouldn't he?" I eyed the document she was concealing. "What document is that you're holding? Let me see it." "It's none of your concern," Chloe retorted curtly as she attempted to fold the document and conceal it within her bag. Before she could successfully fold it, I caught a fleeting glimpse. It was a formula sheet. All publicly accessible formula sheets had backups within the relevant department. The specific formula originating from David's office could pose a significant risk if possessed solely by Chloe. "Are you planning to provide this formula to someone? Perhaps Tom?" I questioned, reaching towards the document. Chloe forcefully pushed me away. "Get lost. I suggest you mind your own business." She quickly stepped into the elevator, and before I could intercept her, she closed the elevator doors. Watching Chloe depart, I surmised that the Stellar Corp family faced a serious problem. If my suspicions were correct, Tom was coercing Chloe into stealing the formula. Chloe, desperate to win Tom back, was undertaking this perilous action. To her, Tom represented a significant asset. Moreover, since the Stellar Corp family were not her biological relatives, she was likely attempting to secure a fallback plan for herself. I retrieved my phone to call David. All I received was a busy signal. "The number you are trying to reach is currently busy. Please try again later." David should have been asleep at this hour. Who could possibly be calling him? It must have been Chloe. She undoubtedly planned to portray herself as the victim first. I decided to proceed to the security office to obtain the surveillance footage immediately. Upon arriving, I observed Chloe exiting the room. She was engaged in a phone conversation and, upon noticing me, flashed a knowing smirk. "Dad, I went to the office to pick something up and happened to see Sarah leaving from your office area. She stole a document and subsequently deleted the corresponding surveillance footage." So that explains why she consistently stays late. She must harbor some ulterior motives. Not only had she falsely accused me, but she had also tampered with the surveillance evidence. She had been quite meticulous. I wondered if she had worn gloves while pilfering the document. Without them, fingerprints would surely implicate her. However, she may have overlooked a crucial detail: the unforeseen repercussions of utilizing that specific document. After Chloe concluded her call, she walked past me smugly. "Sarah, you had better watch your step." With that, she strutted away confidently. A minute later, David called me. "Sarah, I heard you took a document from my office. Just inform me if you require something. What exactly did you take?" I replied, "It's a formula sheet, but I was not the one who took it. Chloe did. She has already left the premises. You should instruct security to apprehend her." "What? A formula sheet? I will have security intercept her immediately. That sheet absolutely cannot leave the building." David quickly terminated the call. As I was about to exit the security room, an idea struck me. Since Chloe had thought to delete the sixth floor's security footage, she probably anticipated that I would expose the situation, leading security to detain her. The formula sheet was still likely concealed in her bag. Walking out with it would be highly suspicious. Chances are she had already photographed it and transmitted the image to Tom as a contingency. Her subsequent move might be to plant the physical document on my desk to incriminate me. With this realization, I rushed back to the security room and located footage capturing her entering my office. Assuming she would return to erase this footage as well, I recorded it on my own phone. After concluding this task, I concealed myself in the nearby stairwell. A few minutes later, Chloe returned to erase the surveillance footage pertaining to my office area. Once she had finished, she stepped out, and from a blind spot, I recorded her subsequent phone call to Tom. "Tom, did you receive the document I sent? Remember your promise to marry me?" So that was their arrangement. I captured the entire exchange on camera. David and Ben had arrived at the office by this time. Security personnel detained Chloe, but they were unable to locate the formula sheet on her person. Chloe suggested, "Dad, instead of searching me, why not search Sarah instead?" "Oh, wait, she's likely clever enough not to carry it on her. Check her desk." Ben eagerly volunteered, "Dad, I'll conduct the search." Ben located the formula sheet at my desk and threw it contemptuously in my face. "Sarah, you ungrateful individual. After everything Dad and Mom have done for you, this is how you repay their kindness?" I closed my eyes momentarily as the paper fluttered to the floor. This time, David observed Ben's bullying behavior without intervening. He was uncertain whom to trust, relying solely on the evidence presented before him. Chloe chimed in. "I always wondered why she insisted on receiving cash instead of shares. It turns out she was plotting to bring down the Stellar Corp family all along. What a treacherous person." Ben added his voice. "Dad, you transferred a significant amount of cash to her recently, enough to sustain her for a lifetime. Freeze her bank card immediately." I addressed David directly. "Dad, call the police. They will not overlook a single clue. Oh, incidentally, there should be fingerprints in your office. Allow the police to collect them." Chloe looked visibly apprehensive. She likely hadn't anticipated me catching her, so she probably hadn't worn gloves. David intended to contact the police, but Chloe intervened, pleading, "Dad, please don't publicize our private matters. Freeze Sarah's card first and resolve this internally. If you involve the police, it will only tarnish our family's reputation." David hesitated, then turned to me and asked, "Sarah, tell me the truth. Did you do this?" In the distance, the sound of sirens grew louder. I smirked. "I already contacted the police. They will determine whether I committed this act or not." Chloe clenched her fist tightly, her hatred for me palpable. When the police arrived, they meticulously collected fingerprints. I provided them with the surveillance footage and the video recording of Chloe's incriminating phone call to Tom as evidence. This evidence was sufficient to definitively implicate Chloe. She knelt before David and Emily, confessing tearfully, "Mom, Dad, I made a terrible mistake. Please forgive me, considering our history together. I promise I won't dare do anything like this again." David and Emily finally saw through her facade. They shook their heads in disappointment. "We raised you, provided you with a comfortable life, And yet you betray us like this. We are profoundly disappointed in you." As Chloe was about to be escorted away by the police, Ben pleaded with his parents. "Mom, Dad, let's handle this matter privately. If Chloe gets arrested, our company's reputation will suffer irreparable damage." David looked towards me, seeking my opinion. "Sarah, what are your thoughts?" I suggested, "How about reclaiming the 10% share of the company you had planned to allocate to Chloe? Let that serve as her punishment, and we can consider the matter settled." When my parents had initially discussed the share distribution with me, I learned that 49% of Stellar Corp's shares belonged to other board members. David and Emily held 51%, intending to grant me 10%, Chloe 10%, and Ben 15%, while retaining 16% for themselves. Although the shares hadn't been officially distributed, they were in the process of drafting the agreement. Despite the company currently operating at a loss, Chloe's potential shares still held significant value. Chloe's face turned livid with rage, and she shouted, "Sarah, have you no sense of shame?" David declared, "Let's proceed with that plan. I will contact the lawyer tomorrow to formally redistribute the shares." Chloe nearly fainted from anger. Ben supported her as their parents discussed retracting the police report, opting to handle the situation internally. Ben directed a cold stare at me. "Sarah, are you officially declaring war?" I sneered in response. "Hasn't the war already commenced?" Fine. You will see," Ben uttered through gritted teeth. The following day, news broke that Stellar Corp's proprietary formula had been leaked, causing a massive public uproar. For years, Stellar Corp had marketed its flagship products as entirely natural, free from alcohol and fluorescent agents. The leak effectively dismantled Stellar Corp's reputation, resulting in substantial fines for false advertising. David finally realized that the Miller Group's marriage proposal had been nothing more than a calculated ploy to dismantle Stellar Corp. Relations between the Stellar Corp and Miller families were irrevocably severed. The scandal dealt a severe blow to Stellar Corp. Enraged, David expelled Chloe from their home. She was formally removed from the Stellar Corp family register, losing her accumulated wealth overnight. Subsequently, Chloe discovered she was pregnant. The child's father was Tom, and she demanded that he marry her. Tom, however, had never harbored any genuine intention of marrying her, especially now that she had been ousted from the Stellar Corp family and was no longer a wealthy heiress. They arranged to meet at a cafe. Coincidentally, I was also present, seated unnoticed in a nearby booth. Chloe pleaded desperately, "Tom, you promised you would marry me if I obtained the documents for you. How can you possibly renege on your commitment?" "Chloe, you are incredibly naive," Tom chuckled dismissively. "I merely utilized you. Did you genuinely believe I intended to marry you?" Chloe placed a pregnancy test report on the table before him. "I am pregnant with your child. Regardless of the circumstances, you should assume responsibility." Tom contemptuously ripped up the report. "Your lifestyle is notoriously promiscuous. Who can definitively say if the child is mine?" Chloe was incensed. "Tom, are you even human? If you deny paternity of this child, I will carry him to term and obtain a DNA test." Tom scoffed derisively. "What purpose would that serve? Even if the child is mine, I have no intention of marrying you. You were never suitable for me, and you are even less so now." "You despicable jerk!" Chloe exclaimed, picking up Tom's half-finished cup of coffee with the intent of throwing its contents on him. Tom swiftly grabbed her wrist. "Don't compel me to strike a woman." Unable to free herself, Jack took the coffee cup from her grasp and drank the remaining contents in one gulp. "Fine, I will proceed with having the child then," Chloe retorted defiantly before storming out of the cafe. Tom glanced towards my booth. "Sarah, come on out." He had detected my presence. I remained seated as he approached my booth. Tom inquired, "Observing her predicament, does it bring you satisfaction?" I nodded affirmatively. "Naturally." Tom sat down languidly, looking at me. She was exceedingly bothersome. Had I foreseen this outcome, I would not have involved myself with her initially. Chloe received her just desserts, and Tom was undeniably reprehensible as well. They were, in essence, a match made in hell. I stood up, preparing to depart. He stopped me. I do not wish for her to carry that child to term. You know her well enough. How can we induce her to abort the pregnancy without causing excessive complications? I threw back coolly. That is not a matter you should be discussing with me. However, if Ben were to discover she is leveraging her pregnancy to coerce a marriage, he would likely persuade her to terminate it. After I departed, Tom contacted Ben. He sent him a concise message. Chloe is pregnant. I am not marrying her. You had better convince her to get rid of it before she further embarrasses herself. The following day, Ben parked his car in front of the Miller Corporation building. When Tom appeared, Ben rushed towards him and delivered a forceful punch to his face. A physical altercation ensued between Tom and Ben, requiring security personnel to intervene and separate them. Upon returning to his office, Tom sent me a photograph depicting his bruised face. This was your brilliant idea? I lost a tooth. I received the message and chuckled privately to myself. Two reprehensible individuals fighting. It was precisely the outcome I had hoped for. I replied via text. You sustained some injuries, but you successfully resolved the Chloe problem. Isn't that a worthwhile trade-off? Tom responded, I am holding Ben accountable for this. Someday, he will pay for this assault. As I had predicted, after confronting Tom, Ben took Chloe to the hospital. He persuaded her earnestly, Chloe, terminate that pregnancy. Tom is not worth it. Initially, Chloe refused. Bitterly, she lamented, but this child represents my sole remaining leverage. Now that I have been expelled by my parents, what recourse do I have if I do not marry Tom? Ben held Chloe's hand firmly and promised solemnly, Chloe, you do not require any man's support besides mine. I can provide for you indefinitely. Clinging to Ben as if he were her lifeline, Chloe nodded in agreement. Okay, I trust you. I will depend on you. Please do not let me down. Following the medical procedure, Ben rented an apartment for Chloe to recuperate. Helen, the Stellar Corp family maid, approached Ben. Sir, Miss Chloe is accustomed to my soup. It is crucial now to nourish her back to health. How about I prepare soup daily and deliver it to her? Ben nodded appreciatively. That would be wonderful. Thank you, Helen. Ben's girlfriend, Olivia, returned from overseas. She was expecting their child, and they began discussing marriage plans. When Chloe learned of this development, she confronted Ben insistently. Weren't you supposed to take care of me forever? If you marry Olivia, how can you fulfill that promise? Ben explained, I will ensure your living needs are met, but I cannot indefinitely postpone marriage. My name is no longer listed on the Stellar Corp family register. Why can't we... Chloe took Ben's hand, looking directly into his eyes. I know your feelings for me extend beyond a mere sibling affection. Ben pulled Chloe into a conflicted embrace. They were not biologically related, and Chloe had now been formally disassociated from the Stellar Corp family. However, David and Emily would undoubtedly disapprove of such a union. He gently stroked her hair and said, Allow me some time to consider this. Ben contemplated the situation for several days without reaching a definitive conclusion, while rumors began circulating about his impending engagement to Olivia. He visited Chloe with decreasing frequency, citing busyness whenever she called. His actions clearly indicated he was avoiding the issue. Chloe bit her lips until they bled and devised a desperate plan. She would employ the threat of suicide to compel Ben into making a decision. She ordered counterfeit sleeping pills online. When Helen delivered her soup, she also brought in Chloe's package and unwrapped it for her. Upon seeing the pills, Helen inquired cautiously, Miss, are you experiencing difficulty sleeping? Sleeping pills should not be taken carelessly. I am aware, Chloe replied, mentally preparing her scheme. She instructed Helen, Helen, please do not bring soup tomorrow. Okay, Helen nodded. Chloe casually asked, How is your son doing? Is he feeling better? Helen managed a faint smile. He is completely recovered now. He is getting married soon. You will have to come for the wedding sweets. Yes, Chloe nodded, failing to notice the profound sadness reflected in Helen's eyes as she turned away. That night, Chloe ingested an entire bottle of the counterfeit sleeping pills. Being fake, the entire bottle equated to approximately 3 genuine pills. She swallowed them without hesitation. After taking the pills, she sent a text message to Ben. This will be the final occasion I address you as brother. Hopefully, in another lifetime, we shall meet under different circumstances." Then, she drifted off to sleep. She believed that upon waking, Ben would finally yield to her demands. In her past life, she had entertained a similar notion. She had consumed a bottle of counterfeit pills, hoping her parents' affection would shift back towards her. Regrettably, everything went tragically awry. Helen had surreptitiously swapped the counterfeit bottle for genuine sleeping pills. That was the sequence of events then, and it mirrored the present situation now. Helen had served as a maid for the Stellar Corp family for approximately 10 years. 2 years prior, her son had fallen gravely ill and required urgent surgery. She lacked the necessary funds. Desperate, she implored Emily for a loan. Emily was inclined to assist, but Chloe intervened, arguing, "The Stellar Corp family is not a charitable organization. What if she absconds with the money? In any case, she will likely never be able to repay it within her lifetime on her meager salary. Do not lend it to her." Consequently, Helen was unable to secure the required funds, and her son's surgery was consequently delayed. She had endured a difficult life, and just as her son was on the verge of marriage, he passed away. Helen harbored this secret grievance internally and meticulously planned her revenge against Chloe. When Chloe attempted suicide using counterfeit sleeping pills, Helen seized the opportunity to substitute them with real ones, thereby ending Chloe's life. Ben rushed frantically to the apartment and transported Chloe to the hospital. En route, he was consumed with remorse, murmuring, "Chloe, why did you resort to this? I simply required some time to make up my mind. I had no intention of abandoning you." Chloe was admitted to the hospital for emergency treatment. When David and Emily received the news, they reacted with dismissive indifference, merely uttering, "Oh." They did not visit Chloe in the hospital. Previously, Chloe had stolen a crucial formula for Tom, inflicting substantial losses upon the Stellar Court family. David and Emily harbored intense resentment towards Chloe for this betrayal. Furthermore, they had learned of Chloe's manipulative attempt to use her feigned death to coerce Ben into breaking off his engagement with Olivia and marrying her instead. David and Emily held Olivia in high regard as a prospective daughter-in-law, so Chloe's actions only served to intensify their disdain for her. The attending physician emerged from the operating room and informed Ben gravely, "I regret to inform you that despite our best efforts, we were unable to save her. Please prepare for the worst." Ben struck the wall violently in frustration, his eyes filled with anguish. Upon learning of Chloe's demise, David stated coldly, "She deserved it." Lisa couldn't suppress a few tears and sighed resignedly. She brought this upon herself. We were more than generous towards her. While undergoing a prenatal checkup, Olivia attempted to contact Ben repeatedly, but he failed to answer her calls. When he finally picked up, he snapped irritably, "Can you cease bothering me? I am drowning in problems right now." "Ben, let us end our relationship. I will handle the baby's upbringing independently," Olivia stated calmly before terminating the call. Olivia made the prudent decision, recognizing that Ben was unworthy of her future, and resolutely walked away from the situation. Concurrently, I secured a plane ticket to Norway. I anticipated that once Ben processed the recent events, he would inevitably seek retribution against me. In my past life, he had deliberately run me over with his car, so I knew he was capable of repeating such an act. While packing my belongings, I called David and Emily. "Mom, Dad, I am embarking on a trip." They expressed a desire to accompany me for a prayer pilgrimage. I advised against it, stating, "You are both getting older. Perhaps it is best not to undertake strenuous travel." They insisted, citing the numerous issues plaguing the company lately and suggesting that a prayer trip might prove beneficial, besides offering a welcome respite. Unable to dissuade them, I proceeded to book their tickets as well. My intuition proved correct. After several days of brooding, Ben discovered that Olivia had terminated the pregnancy and had definitively ended their relationship. He came to the realization that all his recent misfortunes stemmed from my return. Consumed by a desire for revenge, he resolved to kill me. He sent me a menacing text message. "Sarah, leaving so abruptly. Aren't you fearful that I will pursue your foster family and brother?" I replied defiantly, "I have already relocated them to safety. If you possess sufficient courage, come confront me directly in front of my parents." Indeed, as soon as I resolved to confront Ben head-on, I had arranged for my foster mother's relocation. My brother was currently enrolled in college, and it being holiday time, I had advised him to travel abroad for relaxation. I needed to ensure Ben couldn't exploit my vulnerabilities. It would require considerable time for him to locate them, compelling him to target me directly. Rather than remaining surrounded by potential danger, I preferred to lure him out into the open. He promptly booked a ticket to pursue me. I contacted Tom. "Are your injuries healed?" Surprised, Tom responded, "Yes, why the sudden concern?" Half jokingly, I remarked, "Didn't you mention wanting to settle the score with Ben? Now presents an opportune moment." Tom grasped my implication immediately. "Provide me with his itinerary." "I will send it shortly," I replied with a faint smile before ending the call. Upon arrival in Norway, David and Emily experienced severe altitude sickness and remained confined to the hotel room, requiring supplemental oxygen. I proceeded up the snowy mountain alone, with Ben trailing closely behind me. Up there, devoid of surveillance, committing murder would be relatively straightforward. Ben emerged from the landscape, a twisted grin contorting his features. "Sarah, you should never have returned. Now you will pay for Chloe's life." I responded coldly. "If she held such significance for you, why not join her in the afterlife?" "Still exhibiting bravado before your demise?" Ben retorted, raising a climbing stick and swinging it violently towards me. At that precise moment, two imposing men rushed forward, effectively restraining him. In disbelief, Ben stared at me. "Sarah, did you hire assassins? How dare you?" "Whether I dare or not is irrelevant," I stated calmly, glancing towards the precipitous cliff edge. "I simply prefer not to dirty my own hands. Tom is willing to undertake the task, and that suffices." No sooner had I uttered those words than the two men lifted Ben bodily and hurled him off the mountain's edge. "Ah, Sarah, you will pay for this!" Ben's anguished screams gradually faded into the abyss. I dropped 10 bundles of cash onto the snow before the men, instructing them, "Do not worry, I desired his death. I will not betray your involvement." This payment served as life insurance, ensuring they wouldn't subsequently silence me. Recognizing my pragmatism, they accepted the money and departed without further incident. Tom called me shortly thereafter. "Sarah, I admire your audacity. Why not consent to marry me?" I chuckled silently to myself. "Do you genuinely believe you are worthy of such a proposal?" Tom pressed further. "Why won't you provide an answer? I can offer you anything you desire. We are fundamentally unsuited for each other. I am capable of obtaining whatever I desire through my own efforts," I replied firmly, ending the call. After descending the mountain, Ben was officially reported missing. A week later, his body was discovered. David and Emily, already struggling with the effects of altitude sickness, fainted upon receiving the news of Ben's death and were subsequently hospitalized. Acting in my capacity as family, I went to claim his body. Gazing upon his frozen remains, I finally experienced a sense of profound relief. When questioned about the disposition of his remains, I calmly stated, "When in Rome, do as the Romans do. Proceed with a sky burial." Ben's body was dismembered according to the local customs as I observed the proceedings. Snowflakes drifted down, blanketing the landscape in white. Vultures circled overhead before descending to feast. I clasped my hands together and offered a solemn bow towards the sky. "Ben, may you rest in peace." Following Ben's passing, David and Emily fell seriously ill. They remained hospitalized locally for a month before I arranged for a private medical flight to transfer them back home for continued treatment. With both Chloe and Ben gone, I became their sole remaining support system, the undisputed heir to the Stellar Corp fortune. I had never truly forgiven them, and now, with their remaining time limited, there was nothing further I needed to undertake. I assumed control of the Stellar Corp group, and my skills were finally put to effective use. I developed several patented technologies that formed the basis for the company's new product lines. Once launched onto the market, these products generated massive sales revenue. In just 3 years, I successfully transformed the company from incurring losses to achieving substantial profitability. I also diversified my portfolio by investing in several other promising businesses, consequently growing my personal wealth. 100-fold. Within those 3 years, David and Emily succumbed to their illnesses, passing away one after the other. I brought my adoptive mother, Maria, to live with me in the spacious new villa I had purchased, thereby fulfilling my desire to repay her for raising me. My brother successfully completed his undergraduate studies and pursued further education in graduate school, embarking on a bright and promising future. On the day the company I had invested in went public, I chose not to attend the celebratory bell-ringing ceremony. I delegated public appearances to my business partners, preferring to maintain a low profile as the strategic force behind the scenes. Instead, I visited the amusement park from my childhood. The park had undergone extensive renovations, and the new Ferris wheel was significantly larger than the one I remembered. I booked the entire Ferris wheel for a private ride, ascending alone. As the opening bell echoed from the stock exchange, the Ferris wheel began its slow rotation, carrying me high into the sky. "Ben," I thought silently, "observe. Riding a Ferris wheel does not necessitate companions on your left and right. A solitary individual can perceive a much broader vista." You once queried if riding alone induced loneliness. Yes, admittedly it does. However, the strong are often destined for solitude. I find I prefer tranquility over chaos. In that solitary moment, suspended between earth and sky, I finally made peace with the tumultuous past and embraced the bright, limitless future that lay before me.